talk about something that Susan wanted to learn about up in our Glenmont store. Susan's one of our fitters, been with us a couple years. So she goes, what's the deal with rigid forefoot varus? And how do we help this person out? Well, first we have to understand what rigid forefoot varus is. Rigid forefoot varus is when the front of the foot is inverted, so big toe size stays up in the air relative to the rear foot. So what we're looking at here is the rear foot, and the forefoot's going to be inverted to it. So when it comes to loading the foot or stepping on it, the foot big toe side does not want to meet the ground. No big deal in everyday life. We'll just walk more like a duck, and that will load that to get them through ambling around the universe. So what we're going to do is talk about why it's important to take care and to recognize this in a ski boot. Now we have two tubes in the ski boot, the one that goes around the leg and one that goes around the foot. And if they're not in alignment, we have a lot of issues through the midfoot and through the ankles. So first of all, with the foot not being able to load, it's going to stay stuck up in the air in a boot, which is then going to cause the tibia to want to rotate to get that foot down to the ground. When it stays up, we're going to have a lot of load or pressure on the lateral side of the foot. Skiing wise, we may feel biased that way, but realistically, we're going to have a tougher time finding our inside edge, because we're going to have to rotate our tibia so much to get that big toe down to the ground where we can pressure the ski. And we're going to use up a lot of our motion there. So this skier might end up using other bags of tricks, like rotating the torso, leading with the arms, tipping, whatever it takes to get that ski to engage. Well, the battle zone of where the fit discomfort tends to happen then is in the ankles. How moving the ankle forward does not now line up over the center of the foot. It's more driving towards the big toe, which causes a lot of discomfort in the ankles. We'll also then get some discomfort usually back here on the styloid process area. It's not uncommon for this person to have a little lack of ankle flexibility too, so we'll have to be very sure we assess that. Helping this type of foot out, number one, is realizing that it is rigid. Forefoot varus is one of those things. If we're looking for it all the time, we're going to find it. So we really have to be able to assess it. So when we're assessing forefoot varus, usually going to be sighting down the leg, person's knee on our bench or chair, and seeing that the forefoot is indeed inverted. And if it is, we're going to just take some pressure on the big first met head, push down on it. I went to one training clinic once where they said, hey, think about a mouse and a mouse paw. The pressure of a mouse paw down on the big toe should bring it down to the ground. If it doesn't, well, you have some degree of rigid forefoot varus. So what we always want to do now is think about how we're going to ground this. Biggest thing is we need to bring the ground up to the medial side of the foot. So we're going to do that within our insole. So we're usually always going to make an insole, capture the foot with a neutral heel. Neutral heel means lined up the lower 2/3 of the leg. Good place to start. And then we're probably going to have noticed that we're not going to have a lot of pressure on the first met head when we mold it. So what we're going to do here is go downstairs to the lab and show you how we're going to put material there to ground the foot. We have our insole already made. Heel is neutral. That means the heel is going to sit very flat with the ground, and the heel is going to be centered. We got to think about this here. We have our first mat, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So we're actually going to be adding a wedge that'll extend just past the first down to the fifth and capturing all met heads, because the met heads are the part that are not touching the ground. In our normal insole fabrication, we do not want the material touching the met heads. So in this case, we're going to adjust the met heads and ground them to the ground. So first thing, I'm going to take a piece of firm stock material. I usually just kind of triangle and probably adjust, find out which way it wants to fit. Gonna adjust it about like so. So we're gonna be just past the met heads, and we're gonna fix this to our insole. If you want to be nice and neat, you'll mark it. Apply our glue. Always use good Sharpie etiquette. Make sure your glue is flowing nice. Apply. And we're going to wait for our glue to dry completely. So in the meantime, we're going to think about how we're going to grind this. We're going to figure out how much grounding we need, or how high the post or the material needs to be to touch the first and ground the first met head. And then we're going to bevel it or angle it all the way to 0 over at the fifth. So when we get done, we should be able to see where the fifth met head will be nothing but the whitish material, then ramp up to an arc. So then when we place this device on the skier and their foot's down, we should be able to see that the big toe joint will be touching, not getting pushed up, just barely touching. When in doubt, in my opinion, always do a little less than more. So once your material, again, with our contact cements, you want them completely dry. I'm going to place it. Do a quick little trim. So we'll start here. Then we'll bring it over to the grinder. During the grinding process, I'm trying to respect this angle to the wheel and understanding that I want to be within a few degrees of that. I'm figuring it's about 3-4 degrees. So I'll start. Here we have our post. It zeroes out at the fifth met head and ramps up to the base of the first, extends past. As we can see, now we have a pretty balanced foot. The heel is still neutral, and the big toe joint is slightly supported against the ground, which is the bottom of our ski boot, which in essence is the snowy, slippery, inclined terrain that we are skiing on. So, in a nutshell, relatively simple. You just have to know why you're doing this. So let's take it back upstairs. After we make our addition to our insole, we come back up and we want to reevaluate where the skier is. We're going to want to see that, yes, indeed, the big toe is grounded on the ground. We're also going to recheck cuff alignment on the boot. It's a good point in time too also to recheck lateral alignment. See how they're balanced, because if we now have the foot grounded, the ankle should be working more properly within the boot and your energy going in the right direction. So the real takeaway here is by grounding the foot, we're creating balance. When we have balance in alignment, we're going to have better function of the ankle. Once we have better function of the ankle in a grounded foot, we're going to have inherent comfort. Everything's working the way it should within the confines of the boot. And if we have that, our performance is going to then increase. We'll be able to access motion in all our planes of motion. Now remember, the whole idea of being balanced in any sport is to be able to move in any direction at any time. We don't ever want to rob someone of one plane of motion. They will compensate in others. So the key teaching point here is always balance the foot, then work up the kinetic chain. You'll find a lot of times we end up chasing pain and discomfort as an ankle bones or lateral side of the foot. And the fitter will usually want to make punches or grinds to alleviate that. What we really have to do is chase what motion is impeding the body from moving within the boot correctly, and then grounding the foot and getting the boot to work with the motions that the skier has with them. Varus is not a foot problem. It's a balance management problem. And that's what we have to solve. We can't be chasing the pain. We have to get the movements correct.